What if the biggest heist in modern history wasn't pulled off by masked thieves, but by suited executives who pocketed billions while millions lost everything? Hiding scandals so brazen they involved fake fortunes, rigged games, and ruthless power plays that nearly toppled the world economy? Imagine uncovering the chilling manipulations that let the guilty walk free with rewards, sparking betrayals that shattered families and futures in ways too horrifying to ignore. Stay with me, because the most explosive revelations wait at the end. Twisted schemes that echo today, with one overlooked flaw that could trigger it all over again. You won't want to miss these jaw-dropping truths. They might just arm you against the next invisible disaster. This event transcended a mere downturn. It represented a deliberate erosion of confidence, personal stability, and the facade that oversight truly existed within the framework. The upheaval of that pivotal year stemmed not from chance but from a gradual unraveling forged across years, rooted in unchecked ambition, deliberate oversight lapses, and vast sums of fabricated value presented as breakthroughs. When the structure finally gave way, the fallout extended far beyond elite financial circles, stripping away residences, employment, accumulated reserves, and long-term aspirations. Yet, the truly alarming aspect lay in how those accountable emerged even more prosperous. For the average individual during that turbulent period, the shock arrived unexpectedly. Headlines one moment celebrated escalating property values, the next, major institutions faltered, retirement funds dissipated, and equity exchanges plummeted. Abruptly, public authorities allocated enormous resources, not toward those displaced or the workforce devastated, but directly to the entities at the epicenter of the instability. Often, discussions of this episode rely on specialized terminology: high-risk borrowing, protective financial instruments, asset pooling, and overarching vulnerabilities. However, beneath the layers, it boils down to a timeless narrative infused with contemporary elements, a saga centered on capital and influence, free from restraint or accountability. Tracing back to the initial years of the millennium, prominent financial hubs faced challenges following the deflation of a prior speculative surge in technology. Economic foundations wavered, prompting institutions to seek fresh avenues for expansion. That pursuit converged on the housing sector, where acquiring property symbolized not merely an ideal but a pervasive fixation. Innovators in the industry devised methods to amplify this trend exponentially. Central to this was the concept of packaged home financing obligations, aggregating numerous individual loans into cohesive units offered to purchasers. The appeal centered on minimal exposure, consistent returns, anchored by tangible structures. Who could resist? Nevertheless, sustaining this momentum demanded an ever-increasing supply of agreements. Once reliable candidates dwindled, extensions shifted toward those with uncertain repayment capacity, variable terms, relaxed documentation, and elevated thresholds. Justification rested on the notion of distributed hazards, theoretically mitigated through dispersion. Reality proved otherwise. Parallel to this, an additional stratum of wagers materialized in the form of safeguards against defaults, essentially commitments allowing speculation on the viability of these packages. This fostered an odd dynamic where gains hinged on breakdowns rather than successes, incentivizing anticipation of declines for profit maximization. Overseeing this apparatus were evaluative bodies tasked with impartial assessments, yet they endorsed problematic bundles with premium validations. Compensation flowed from the originators themselves, embedding inherent biases that undermined objectivity. With profits flowing abundantly, scrutiny remained minimal. By the midpoint of the decade, the residential arena overheated noticeably. Valuations outpaced income growth, developments proliferated in underpopulated regions, and rapid resales became commonplace without occupancy. It masqueraded as widespread affluence, but underpinnings suggested inflation. Then, delinquencies mounted as flexible arrangements adjusted upward, overwhelming occupants. Repossessions escalated, devaluing the aggregated instruments. Abruptly, presumed secure holdings revealed substantial impairments. A major investment entity folded in the fall of that year, following an earlier absorption of another key player. Soon after, a colossal assurance provider teetered. These represented core components of international monetary networks, their failures igniting widespread alarm. Interinstitutional transactions halted, fluidity congealed, valuations tumbled globally, and individuals confronted evictions, unemployment, and depleted nest eggs. Within a single cycle, collective prosperity diminished by immense figures. Intriguingly, interventions prioritized institutional preservation over public aid. Across political divides, mechanisms mobilized to infuse vast capitals via specialized programs and oversight entities, deploying enormous scales to restore equilibrium. Yet, for whose benefit? Broad segments experienced scant assistance. Joblessness peaked, asset seizures persisted, while leadership in the sector allocated premiums from the very infusions. This transcended fiscal missteps, embodying profound disloyalty and exposing a stark reality. The apparatus prioritizes self-safeguarding over communal welfare. More than a decade onward, remnants linger, yet the apparatus has amplified in scope, velocity, and intricacy. In subsequent periods, global monetary authorities embraced expansive creation strategies, euphemistically termed asset acquisitions, to invigorate circulation, elevate holdings, and rebuild assurance. For proprietors of such elements, outcomes proved favorable. Exchanges ascended, dwellings appreciated, enterprise gains multiplied. Conversely, compensations lagged, disparities widened, and the chasm between speculative arenas and everyday existence intensified. Subsequently, an unforeseen global health challenge prompted even grander infusions. Unprecedented volumes generated swiftly, alongside negligible borrowing costs, urgent supports, and direct distributions. Temporarily, it evoked notions of perpetual buoyancy, as though mastery over perpetual stability had materialized. Predictably, illusions shattered. Soon after, cost pressures intensified universally, defying initial characterizations as fleeting. Persistence rendered them entrenched and contentious. Guardians of policy, previously acclaimed, now hastened reversals. Borrowing expenses climbed sharply, fluctuations ensued, indebtedness grew burdensome anew. Familiar fissures from the prior era resurfaced, amplified by heightened sensitivities. Enterprise obligations reached unprecedented levels, public balances deepened, personal reliance on extensions proliferated, and the sector, now more consolidated and veiled, introduced novel mechanisms for amplification and deception. Digital asset arenas fluctuated wildly, innovative platforms touted advancements while subtly recycling antiquated pitfalls, yet foundational patterns endured. A paradigm hinged on leveraged expansion, decision-makers reluctant to permit flawed concepts to dissolve, overseers influenced or overwhelmed, and common folk relegated to aftermath management during inevitable disruptions. Reflections from that era illuminate key insights. Initially, elaboration does not equate to security. Heightened intricacy complicates oversight and facilitates concealment of perils. Opaque environments favor entrenched players. The less comprehensible, the smoother transactions proceed. Next, motivations drive outcomes. Assurances of rescues encourage escalation, career trajectories influence leniency, and electoral apprehensions prioritize stability over equity. Furthermore, informed awareness equates to endurance. Expertise in intricacies isn't requisite for self-preservation, but grasping operational dynamics proves essential. Identifying overextensions, challenging prevailing stories, and interrogating beneficiaries, exposures, and consequences upon cessation of momentum, for halts invariably occur. That historical rupture served not as aberration but as harbinger. Scrutiny reveals persistent frameworks, merely enhanced through technology and automation, rendering them more susceptible. Anticipate forthcoming disturbances. Reinforcements for institutions, value dilutions, turbulence, but not equity, absent comprehension of concealed operations. Enduring prosperity encompasses more than accumulations. It involves insight, vigilance, fortitude, the foresight to anticipate tempests and maintain steadiness amid them. Mechanisms withhold alerts, narratives offer no salvation, yet precedents instruct those attentive. Patterns may not replicate identically, yet disregard invites peril. If this reshaped your outlook, consider following. Past insights guide forward paths.